This is absolutely perfect for the San Jose Sharks as we got a big Quentin Musty prospect update. He's been one of the hottest players in the OHL, but we also have to talk about new acquisition, Patrick Giles scoring his first NHL goal, and some very interesting quotes to go along with it, highlighting some incredible stuff for the San Jose Sharks right now. We got all that plus more to break down on this episode of Sharks Digest. But before we get into that, guys, we are super excited to announce a March Madness bracket in partnership with Hot Takes. Check this out right here. We are pumped to be launching a March Madness bracket for the channel. We've partnered with the Hot Takes app and other Digest Media channels for this event. It's completely free to sign up. Just download the Hot Takes app, click the March Madness banner at the top, and under groups, select Digest Media Pool. This is super exciting as there's over $25,000 in prizes to be won. And since there's a much smaller pool than normal bracket challenges, there's a real chance you can win big. So check out the link below or scan the QR code to download the app and make sure you use the code DIGEST, all caps DIGEST, when you sign up. You'll get exclusive perks when you join if you do that, guys. This is amazing. The main event round starts on March 16th, so get in quickly. Get in now. If you have any trouble, any questions about signing up, email us. The email will be left down below. Thank you to Hot Takes for partnering with us on this amazing competition. Let's get right into this now. We got to start with the Giles stuff, Mark. And like, what a great story, first of all. His first game with the San Jose Sharks, or second game, I should say, sorry, gets that first career goal. It was a nice one, too. The guy from Chevy Chase, Maryland. Unbelievable place he's from. But Patrick Giles, of course, acquired in that Vanacek trade from Florida. Mark, a lot of people are super happy to see him do this, right? It's always great to see that story. An AHL graduate, might you say, undrafted out of Boston College, come in and score his first goal. And honestly, he played a fairly impressive game too. How pumped were you to see this happen? And, how happy are you to see Patrick Giles play some good hockey for the San Jose Sharks?
I mean, the biggest thing looking at him coming into the San Jose Sharks, I've seen a lot of Florida Panthers say, hey, he had an awesome training camp for us. He looked great in the preseason, but he just couldn't crack this lineup. So seeing him finally make it into a lineup, and it seems like maybe a full-time position with the Sharks for the rest of the year was awesome. Like you said, scoring his first NHL goal. I know in an article he was saying too, listen, I'm going to give that puck to my family. They're going to come down to San Jose. It's a feel-good story, and I could see him being a future fourth-line center on this team to grow with the team. He's only 25 years old. I mean, looking at this, Josh, we know Mike Grier went out to add size. Darnay's was added to his team, 6'7", a 6'5" fourth line center. Is your expectations maybe a little higher on Giles now joining this team and maybe just being the fourth line center for this year and a couple seasons to come?
I mean, like, it's always hard to say, right? Like, it's hard to project, especially after the small sample size. But again, like, his trajectory is very interesting. I mean, we have quotes of him being a Bambi legs. I think that was from Ryan Warsofsky, who even said that, right? If you tracked Patrick Giles' development, right? But he worked so hard on his skating. You can see the progress year upon year throughout his whole career, how he became a better goal scorer, better skater, even a little more disciplined. Though this year in the AHL, 39 PIMs in 39 games. He's been able to figure out how to use his size. And Mark, we know, like watching hockey, bigger guys, especially a guy who's 6'5", as heavy as he is as well, it's not easy oftentimes to, when you're dominating everyone else around you in terms of size from the time you're probably 15 years old, it's harder to play with that size at the NHL level because you're not just throwing guys around anymore. You got to get used to take it as well. So right now, I think his trajectory is great, but honestly, seeing that little flash from him in this recent game it's giving me a bit of hope. I don't know if I want to peg him as the fourth liner of the future or anything, but it sure seems like the team has pretty high hopes for him.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. I mean, looking at Shang Peng's article, go check out Shang Peng. Listen, he covers everything to do on the Sharks, and it's a must read. Honestly, we're looking at it constantly. It's awesome stuff. We did see a quote from his article as well, going into saying that was the whole thought behind the trade. We're pretty excited about this kid. This was Ryan Warsofsky talking about acquiring Giles to this team. I mean, listen, Josh, he's not a big name. He's not a name that a lot of hockey fans know. Coming from an undrafted background, joining the Florida Panthers team, playing a lot of time in the AHL. But I do see a bright future with this kid, even if it's in the Barracuda system. But it's just awesome to see a feel-good scorer getting his first goal and getting high praise from their head coach.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like, again, great story. Leave some love for Patrick Giles down below, but there is a little wrinkle to this trade when we acquired Patrick Giles that we want to dive into as well, and it has to do with the goaltending situation because there's been a little bit of an unfortunate situation. You can see here again via San Jose Hockey Now, like I said, linked down in the description below. Mike Grier said, in an ideal world, we would have been able to bring in another goalie to kind of come in here and back up Georgi full time and let Romanov go down there and play. But the price was high, and some of the guys that we had interest in, their teams didn't want to move their goalie depth. So Moving away Vanacek is paying some unfortunate dividends right now as Georgi Romanov, I mean, look, he's been solid for the Kuda. Coming up this year, now that he's been on the Sharks roster, he couldn't be papered down to play in the AHL playoffs if I'm reading this correctly. Like, he is kind of stuck with the Sharks this season. So there is a bit of an unfortunate trade-off though, Mark. Would you say the Sharks regret making this Vanacek trade? I think Giles has proven that it's probably worth having it, but it is one of those unfortunate consequences. Sometimes those cutthroat decisions, difficult decisions, have to be made in the NHL.
I mean, the biggest thing is, listen, Vanacek did not have a future on this team. He had some good seasons with the Sharks team, but going ahead, he's a UFA at the end of the year. Yes, a lot of Sharks fans said, hey, why didn't we get draft picks for this guy? But you do take a swing on Giles. Listen, he might turn into something, he might not, but you have a UFA that's going to end up walking in free agency. Why not take a swing on a 25-year-old center that brings size? I mean, goal scoring, we've seen him score. He's scoring a half a goal per game. Listen, that's 41 goals, and it's not going to be 41, but let's be optimistic here. I mean, listen, you move it on. Yes, it sucks for Romanov not being with the Barracuda, but I think the bigger picture and looking at things, I think it's going to work out in the long run. You don't have to deal with a UFA going into free agency that you might not want to bring back. Florida Panthers get him. He gets a team that he can maybe compete for a playoff with or a Stanley Cup with. I don't know, Josh. I'm fine with this. It does suck for Romanov, but I think Askarov can hold it down with the Cuda for quite some time.
Yeah, let us know down below what your thoughts are on this whole thing. Patrick Giles, this trade, we'd love to hear from you guys. But speaking of the Sharks' future and who's going to be holding down some roster spots, we got to go into a bit of a prospect update. And look, we talk about all kinds of guys. We've talked about Sam Dickinson in the past. We talked about Chernyshov, who's been tearing up the OHL. But Musty's a guy that keeps coming up over and over again, and he has been staying hot. 2 goals, 2 assists in their game yesterday as Sudbury beat Brampton 8-6 in a road win. Mark, in Musty's last 4 games, he has 8 goals and 6 assists, and for good reason. He is the San Jose Sharks Prospect of the Week. This was posted by the Sharks on Twitter and probably some other places as well. 32 games, well over 60 points, nearly 70 points. This guy has been insane. 14 points in his last 4 games. I want to remind you, Musty is one of those guys that when I'm looking at the future forward core of the Sharks, his shot is absolutely nasty, first of all. And looking at an advanced stat profile here, he compares very well, honestly, even on the same level, arguably better in some places than a guy like Chernyshov. Now, this comes from here, NHL Foley. Go check them out on Twitter as well. A great little graphic, but you can see the comparison. Overall, you can argue Musty is better right now, and in terms of the advanced profile, his stats in the OHL have been insane, Mark, and we thought maybe he'd slow down. I mean, look, I don't know if anyone thought he'd slow down super, like a crazy amount, but in 32 games, 58 points. Sorry, I think I said near 70 points. My bad. I meant near 60. Sometimes I get too excited talking about him because he's fresh off a 100-point season. He's been one of the best players in the OHL, period, this season, Mark. I mean, how long do you think it'll take him to get into the Sharks lineup? Because I have to imagine, look, there was questions whether he'd even go back to Sudbury this year. We talked about that a bit earlier this year. But I mean, I think as early as next season, I would fully expect to see him make that shot at the Sharks lineup.
I mean, we're seeing Warsofsky and Mike Grier just kind of speak on how there's so many spots opening. They want people to battle for it, and I think that's exactly what Musty's going to do. Going into this offseason, I mean, looking at this team, they're going to have their training camp. There's a lot of spots to fill, and I could see Musty maybe stealing the middle 6 position on this team. Listen, everyone talks about Celebrini. You have Will Smith. You have these young guys, but there's so much future potential coming up through the system. Musty is one of the players headlining this. Like you said, Sam Dickinson. There's so many names that you have to cover, but looking at this, I could see next year being the year that maybe Musty makes that breakthrough, joins the Sharks team, and maybe puts in a great rookie campaign.
Yep, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, right? And there's a reason the Sharks are consistently ranked as having one of the best young cores in the entire NHL because, again, like, it's just insane. Like, you guys all know, I don't need to go through and name every single guy, but these 2 guys in this picture here, Musty and Chernyshov, who are just playing in the OHL and just straight up 2 of the most dominant players in that league. You have Askarov, who is still likely the #1 goalie prospect in the entire NHL. Celebrini, who's very likely going to win the Calder, well, maybe him or Lane Hudson at this point. There's some other guys too, but still, he's probably going to win the Calder. He's the favorite. Will Smith has been basically a point per game over the last while. There's some insane stuff happening for the San Jose Sharks, and we are unbelievably hyped. So leave some hype down below for the future of the Sharks, because it's not just the guys on the team. There is a lot more coming up through the ranks, but that'll do it for this episode of Sharks Digest. If you enjoyed, hey, there's just one thing we're asking of you. Let's join the March Madness bracket. If you want to do one thing to help support us, support this channel, that's the thing you can do. Completely free, no catch, email, password, sign up, join our pool. We're both in it. Everyone in Digest Media is in it. It'll be great to have you. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Mark Pye. We'll catch you in the next one.